Wonderful. Welcome. My name is Moses Ross. I'm the chair of the Multnomah Neighborhood Association. We're about to begin our September 2022 general meeting. And I hope everybody has had a wonderful summer so far. We took a little bit of a break. We did not have a general meeting in August, and some people used that time to go travel the world like our treasurer or like our secretary did. Maybe if you ask her nicely, she'll show you pictures of amazing faraway spots. Yes, Julie? Very good. So one thing I do want to go over real quick is the credentialing and voting. And as we go along here, more people will be here, and we do have to have a quorum, admittedly, for the board. And what's pardon me, not for the board, but Will, what is our quorum number?
Quorum for a general meeting is 10 members, including at least one board member. Okay. So we don't quite have enough people at this point.
It's funny, we have
I count as 2. So Patrick. And Patrick and Carrie there too?
Yes.
Yeah, she's here.
That's 2 more. That's 2, 4, 5, 6. I'm getting close.
Yeah. I think we can safely say that we have a quorum. We have, okay. I show 10 people and I show 2 board members.
Well, it's 10 members, but it's 12. We got enough people. We will continue to add. We might want to hold off on doing actual credentialing until more people come in, though, so we don't have missed people.
Okay, very good. Let me go ahead at least with the approval of the agenda in the previous minutes. The agenda, a copy of the agenda was available on the public drive. Let me post that, if I may, real quick on the screen share, just so everybody can see what we're seeing here. And the previous minutes, we've solved a lot of problems as far as verbiage by using the video documentation, the video link, and that's available at the YouTube. Is the agenda, does everyone approve the agenda and the minutes of the last meeting?
I see the agenda there. The recording of the last meeting has been available on the web on YouTube for quite a while, along with a log of the, we see that the log gives the individual specific items on it. But and if there are any changes to the agenda, they are introduced here, but I'm not hearing any.
Very good. We'll go forward with this agenda and move on to the next item. And while we've been talking, 4 or 5 other people have popped in as well, so that's great. Let's continue. First, I wanted to devote a little bit of time to and ongoing meetings to neighborhood association development. And I'm putting under there things that we're doing to help strengthen the neighborhood association or to improve it that don't necessarily fall under other categories. And so first and foremost, we've had some changes in leadership. We have a new transportation chair, Stefan, gosh, I spelled it wrong on the agenda because I know you spell it Stephen, but you pronounce it, it's pronounced Stefan. Is that correct, sir?
Yep, pronounced Stefan. But that I forgive the spelling mistake. Totally fine.
I saw that afterwards and I spelled it right once out of 3. Okay, so I'm spelling it like I'm pronouncing it. But no, he will be, Stephen, you want to take a quick moment and just kind of say something about what you're doing?
Sure, yeah. My name's Stefan McLandrich. I actually got in touch with Corinne, who was the previous transportation chair, about a bunch of transportation questions. We dove down the rabbit hole on talking about mainly pedestrian safety issues and how that interplays with work that PBOT is doing in our neighborhood. And it got her to thinking, introduced me to this group, and I've agreed to work as a transportation chair. Still learning the ropes, trying to figure out how the process works. This is actually going to be my first general meeting of, and I'm actually new to Southwest Portland. I moved here technically in November last year, so not even a whole year in town.
This coloration is relatively rare and it's not a form of albinism. It's possible.
Well, I will say this, your volunteerism is appreciated, and I'm looking forward to working with you on transportation related issues. And I know that you're following someone who rocked at it, Corinne Wallace, who is she here? Corinne, are you here?
Yeah, just jumped on. Hi, Moses. Hi, everybody.
Welcome. We're just introducing your replacement. So, but I did want to give you a ton of credit for the work that you have done over time as chair. So thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm glad to have Stefan take over. I think he's going to do a wonderful job for our community and transportation.
Right on. Thanks. Okay, so and we do have also, I didn't put it on the agenda, but I do want to mention our land use chair position is open. Former chair and land use chair Frank Rudloff has decided he needed to resign, and I've worked with Frank and his wife for 10 years now plus in neighborhood association stuff. Frank's cool, and it's very appreciated the service that he gave to our neighborhood association as land use chair. So I just wanted to make a public thank you to him for that. We do have a land use chair position open, so we'll let the folks know, and hopefully we'll be able to report next month a replacement for that. Now, the next one is future M&A meetings. And how we conduct our future meetings. Do it be live or virtual or a hybrid solution? And Will and M&A leadership, we talked about this, and Will brought up some really interesting points of just logistics wise, what would be involved. And we do also have, we've worked with Leah Fisher, who also has some equipment and outline, ways that we can do it, that other neighborhood associations are doing virtual meeting, or pardon me, hybrid meetings. So what's a hybrid? A hybrid is basically a Zoom call. People can either be there in person or be there online or using Zoom. And there's pros and cons and there's challenges to it, but they're doable. I guess they're workable. So what we've decided to do is we're going to do a test run of a hybrid meeting for a board meeting. And our next board meeting, we're going to do it hybrid and see if we can work out the kinks. And then, so for the future, we can have it do the same thing at a general meeting. I don't know if we'll be ready for it for October, because we've got a pretty darn busy agenda in October. We may have to keep October virtual only. But November, oh gosh, can you imagine voting elections hybrid? But that's part of the factors with it. And I know Will, do you have anything you'd like to share with us about that, about the hybrid concept?
Sure. It's a little more complicated because you have to have equipment to look at people in the audience as well as people at the speaker's main table for the live meeting. And you have to take account of people who are listening on Zoom and participating on Zoom. So you have to go back and forth and make sure both areas are covered. My church does it. It's pretty smooth, but we don't do a lot of interaction. Hayhurst has been doing it successfully, but I sent an email in to the person at Hayhurst who knows about it, and they haven't gotten back to me yet. So I'll tell you more later. It's doable. It takes a little bit of effort, thought, but once you've got it down, it goes very smoothly.
So we'll report back at the next general meeting about how the board meeting went in the hybrid concept, in the hybrid format. And if all works well, I assume, I'd like to think that we could shoot for the November general meeting as the one that we do virtual. Do that format.
The back is doing the laundry.
Let's see what else is going on here, folks. Let me get back over to my agenda. Oh, yes, an update on the three subcommittees that have been created on bylaws, 501c3 status, and tech information. I was not able to, I had some personal, my mother passed away at the beginning of the month, and so it kind of put a damper on my, I wasn't able to take care of everything as much as I wanted to. And these particular subcommittees suffered from that, or at least stalled. I wanted to use tonight to be able to ask it for volunteers, and also to let folks know that we are members of those committees that currently we're getting it back up and running, and I'll do that this week, specifically the bylaws committee. The concept behind the bylaws committee, of course, is to take a good look at the neighborhood association bylaws and to make some suggestions that kind of akin to this whole charter commission brouhaha that we're doing concept that's out there right now. And so once we get that going, it should only take, it will take a little bit of time, but our results will be brought back up and presented to the general membership. Then we would also have we have our 501c3 status, and that kind of relates to how the bylaws end up. We need to do our homework on how we're going to confirm our status as a nonprofit and where we want to go from here. And that's the part of that subcommittee. And then, of course, the technology is being able to send emails out on the website, and we'll talk more about that in the communication side of things. So if you would be interested in volunteering on either the bylaws, the technology, or the 501c3 subcommittee, please send me an email and I'll get you hooked up and ASAP. Let's see, what time is it? It's 7:12. Ooh, I had a schedule. Next up is officer updates. It shouldn't take very long. I just want to take this moment to, it's been an interesting year. This is a very interesting summer for me. And there's so much to do, and there's so many things that we can do. Multnomah Days really emphasized that for me, because it was really good to see that sense of community coming out in such full force. Between our ice cream social and the Multnomah Days celebrations, it reminded me of what we have to do as a neighborhood, and there's so much more that we can do in our neighborhood. It starts with our neighborhood association, and I'm going to take that and pivot a little bit later into our new business of what I want to propose that we do as a neighborhood association to kind of step it up and to improve. So that's under new business, and that's in relation to Multnomah Days, and I'll wait to talk about that. So onward and upward, and and just as an FYI, myself and quite frankly, my entire board is running again for re-election in October. And we'll have more on that over the next 30 days, but it's been a pleasure serving with them. And we've got such a good leadership team. I'm really happy with what we're doing. So good stuff. Beth Omansky, our vice chair, is not here tonight. She's got a little gallbladder attack, unfortunately. And if you've ever had a gallbladder flare up, they're no fun. So she prioritized her health over our neighborhood association, which I don't blame her. But fortunately, I did talk to her, and I have an email for her when it comes to Jenny and the things that she wants to talk about. And also I have as a backup Patrick, and it comes to the safety issues that the focus of the committee. So I'll be deferring to you on that, Patrick, when we get to it. Is Tad here? Tad, were you able to make it tonight? I do know, it looks like our treasurer is not here tonight, but what I can say about the treasury is, and this will be in the update, the debrief, if you will, of the ice cream social. We made $50 in donations at the ice cream social. So we now officially have $50 more into our account. And it's a nice reminder that, when we get out there into the neighborhood can support us. And it's also a tribute to my secretary's ability to make fairy hair. I think most of those donations came from your pleased clients, your happy clients. So That's the latest. We haven't spent any money, but we have brought $50 in donations. Next up, Julie, your turn. Anything to report? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, that little button. No, nothing, nothing to report from the secretary's side.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And the board minutes, what we're trying to do, I should mention too, is that we're trying to also, along with the live log from the video of these meetings, put a good minute summary with all of the requirements is in there as well, and a hard copy. The board meeting minutes will be clean. I'm going to clean those and put those up here, post them this week. And the meetings from this, same thing, after Julie does her magic. So as far as that summary. Okay, great. And then of course the firm documentation being the Zoom one. So where am I at again? Okay, so that's all for the officers, and it is 7:16. We're a little bit ahead of schedule. Let's get into the committee updates real quick. Patrick, your turn. What's happening in safety? I know that you've been active.
Yeah, thanks. Well, the only thing we have to report is we've put together a one-page contact list for public safety information, and that's been out there on the website for comment and revision. I think we're pretty close to a final draft, which I think, Moses, you might have. Beth, I think, sent it to you or will. So if that is up on the website, people can look at it and add to it if they feel like we've left anything off. It has items such as suicide hotline, the new 311 number for the city, which is kind of an all items contact information. We did include a contact for the Safe Rest Village, the individuals in charge there, to report any safety issues outside the village or near the village. We included the PDX Reporter website and a bunch of other non-emergency and emergency numbers for the city. So that should be out for comment and finalization in October. We normally have a police officer about this time, but they had no new announcements for us, and so they're going to defer to the October meeting. And we all thought that would give Jenny a little bit more time for her presentation and Q&A. So with that, I'll finish the report.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Let's see. Next up is communications. I know Will has been chairing that, and he's doing our website. He's been doing emails and all of our tech-related work masterfully, I might add. Thanks, Will.
Masterfully is one story. Basically, the story behind communications for me is essentially it's a two-way street. So if someone sees something they want in communication, let us know. There's a couple of you can go to the general, always multnomachair@gmail.com, or my email, mnaequity@sweeney.org, to let us know what's happening, because we've done some changes. One being we're putting out a newsletter finally, something we call the Multnomah Messenger. We try to get it out once a month with sorts of short, one paragraph or so on it with it. There's more to talk about. You just got a link to get more. The Facebook page is now under our control and we're updating it. There's a weirdness. There's a second Facebook page out there. It's a ghost Facebook page, not currently active, but if you Google Multnomah Neighborhood Association, you kind of get random choice as to which one you get. The one that has lots of likes and is run by the Multnomah Chair is the one that's active. The website, as you know, the website got clobbered when Sweeney got clobbered. It is now fully recovered to the best of our ability, thank goodness. There was a long historical thing about our fight to stop the residential infill project back in 2017, and it was a lot of stuff on it. That's all done. There is some old history that's not there. If anybody finds errors, please let me know. By the way, the report for communication is on our meeting materials for this meeting. So just go to there and look it up and you'll have all that information. And finally, we're about to get a good neighbor agreement going with about the Safe Rest Village. And we want to make sure that when it's active, we're tracking how it's doing. So we're in the process of developing a good plan for keeping track of things on the GNA, so it's good, reliable information. And when the GNA comes out, we will have that tracking plan to go. And that's the report for communications.
I appreciate that. You know, and I think that, yeah, we'll certainly circle back around on all that. The next up is transportation. And I also want to hook in Corinne, because Corinne has something transportation related to that. So during your report, after you're finished with yours.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Moses. So we're going to be speaking. I've got a meeting set up with PBOT on Thursday. I'm going to try to get in some of the nitty gritty on what they have planned to do in our community coming up. And there's a particular location that I've been advocating for, which got me involved in this. And I'd love to hear people send emails to the mailing list, and Moses, you can then send those to me. But I would love to hear if y'all have comments about specifically pedestrian safety issues and what concerns there are, and I'd love to hear those. And the area that I find to be very concerning is near the French Quarter Food Court on Southwest 35th between Multnomah Boulevard and Southwest Falcon. There's a big sweeping turn. Cars go very fast. They can go from Multnomah all the way to Barber with 0 stop signs the whole way, and high pedestrian traffic there because it's the main southern access to the Village Commercial District. So that's something that I'll be chatting with PBOT about. PBOT also has plans to do a pedestrian safety project on Multnomah Boulevard between 37th and 40th. I'll be asking them about that. And they've also told me that there is some sort of plan to have a kind of safe walking area between 40th and 45th on Multnomah Boulevard. So I'd be interested to hear how they plan to accomplish that. Then that's all.
That last one will be interesting, won't it?
Yes.
Just because of that format there. And that, if I remember correctly, that 45th then in turn, hooks you into the Maplewood area, and they have one designated some project into there too, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Corinne, are you still on?
Yeah.
Yeah. You wanted to mention a project?
Oh, well, it's I guess it's connected to transportation slightly. It's more about the Multnomah dumpster days that's coming up, and I can save that for news business or talk about it now. I can go either way.
You know, I have 6 minutes before Jenny begins, and equity is the last one, so go for it.
Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We were reached out to by Monica at Civic Life, and proposed bringing doing a Multnomah Village dumpster days so that people can get rid of unwanted items. And they are working with the Multnomah Art Center to set up a dumpster from 9 to 1 on October 1st. So people can come and get rid of unwanted items that are not easily disposed of in our trash, recycling, or compost bins. It's shared with Hillsdale, and it's only offered to folks within the neighborhoods because they would, if people from all over the place came to offload their stuff in our dumpster, we would fill up too quickly. But it's going to be, like I said, from 9 to 1 at the Multnomah Art Center on Saturday, October 1st. And there's a website. Well, it sounds like since we have Facebook up and running, we can post it there. And then I've also asked Will to get it up onto our website whenever he has a chance, so you can reach out to more details. And we'll make sure to send out some additional communication to the rest of the neighborhood as well, so you can come in to bring your unwanted items. They have a list of what you can bring, and then a list of stuff that's not okay, like chemicals and paint and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. We had to petition to get it brought into Multnomah, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to once again bring the community together, even if it is just to get rid of unwanted stuff. So I'm
Well,
available if anybody has any questions.
very cool, Corinne. It looks like Amanda has her hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you. I have a safety project to request that the neighbourhood put in, which is to have the white lines at this four-way stop at 40th and Garden Home to be repainted. My kids nearly got toasted by people blowing through that stop sign with the diversion from Capitol Highway. It's really dangerous. So we did some vegetation cutting back to highlight the stop signs. But if you could possibly ask the city to repaint the lines, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Amanda. I think that's been talked about with Steve Sigethy regarding the Capitol Highway project. I believe that request is put in, but it is definitely worth reminding them the importance of that, and that the lines do a lot for slowing traffic and creating pedestrian safety. I'll connect with Stefan offline, and we'll make sure that that gets revisited, unless Stefan has any other comments on it.
No,
Thanks so much.
I can even make sure I bring that up when I meet with P-Bot on Thursday. So thank you, Amanda.
Good issue. All right. And you know, and Stefan, this kind of relates to what we need to do out. I think we need to, when we send out your request for these priorities areas, we need to, we need to put it in the messenger and promote the heck out of it and see what kind of good responses we get. It'd be, I bet you Falcon's going to come up. I bet you that one's going to come up. Yeah, the more we know, the better. Last but not least, Will Fuller again for equity.
Okay, but we have not yet taken attendance. Before I do my equity report, I'd like us to do the attendance because my equity report actually leads into Jenni Pullen's presentation. Okay. So I think we can do this fairly quickly. What we do to take attendance is we run a poll, which is an online poll that people can make choices of who they are. And there's two things you answer. Are you or are you not a member of the neighborhood association? And how many people are on the login? Because we count memberships by individuals, not logins. So if we've had 2 people on the login or 3 people on the login, that's 2 or 3 members. One thing I want to mention is that you are a member, in case you don't know, if you live in the boundaries of the neighborhood, if you own a business in the boundary, or you have real property in the boundary, you are automatically a member. There's no membership application and so on. Or if you've actually asked to be and been accepted in writing. So if you meet those criteria, you are a member. And what I'm going to do next, if that's all right, or any questions, is launch the poll and see what we do. It'll go in 2 stages. First, we'll do the actual online poll. Then anybody who was not able to use the poll for some reason, we'll count them as well. And if you're, whether or not you're a member, log in, that's an attendance thing, just say you're not a member. Okay, any questions? Okay, so let's get this poll launched here. Here we go. You should see that on your screen, credentialed members of MNA. Click one of the choices.
That's cool, Will. As a co-host, I can actually see the people as they respond or see the answers being filled in. That's neat.
Yes, and when we'll close it, I'll go back and read it out.
Mm-hmm. So we could, let's see here. Right now we've had 12 people, 12 out of 12 have answered.
12 out of 18. You got 6
Oh,
people that haven't answered for some reason. Okay. If you're not a member, you don't have to. I have only one person who said they're not a member. So are there any members that have not been able to use the poll? If you would raise your hand or wave it or something like that, to let me know that you're still working.
Say hello. Yeah.
Okay, anybody? Looks like 15 out of
Hi,
18.
this is This is Bill B at 650 area code. I'm just calling in from my phone, but I am a member.
Okay, very good.
We change your name to be, and designate you a member.
Okay, we got you a member. Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, I am too. I can't, I didn't see the poll.
Who's that?
Ken Zeidman.
Ken Zeidman, okay,
All right, I'm gonna make sure,
okay.
I'm gonna rename
go.
it to put them in there.
Anybody else? I'm gonna close the poll, end the poll.
If I may, it's not clear to those of us who are with a nonprofit or a business, who's a member, who's not. Obviously, we can't have, 50 of us be members, but
If you own the nonprofit, you're a member if it's located in the, if you're a member, if you work for it, if you're an employee of the nonprofit, no, you're not a member automatically. Okay?
who is the member?
The member is the owner of the organization. If it's a nonprofit with a board and so on, I'm not sure how that works. That's the owner of the business, but it can be a board of directors or something like that, or a board of regents. Not sure.
Wow, Tony, that's a good question. God, let me, for the time, work with me here and I got to clarify that.
Yeah.
How does the school represent as far as voting?
Okay.
Okay.
Just have one, just only allow one. That last time we had a vote when we had two of us on, I texted the others and said, okay, don't vote. I will, but we shouldn't have probably more than, maybe two, households have two, something like that. I guess you can settle that later, but just know that we've been confused about that.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
I've closed the poll at this point, so I'm going to share the results. Okay, so we have 9 people who said one member. We have 3 people who said there are 2 members, and nobody had more than 2 members. And there was 4 people, I'm sorry, who said not a member, 1 person. Okay. Now, is there anybody who was a member and not able to vote? Edith and I were not, so we add me and Edith. Anybody else? Unmute yourself and let me know who you are. Okay, well, it looks like, and Moses, you're a member and you weren't able to vote because you're the
Yep, chairs don't vote.
chair of the vote, so that's Moses. And that's it. So we now have 9 people with 1 member, plus 3 with 2 members, and that makes 12 who voted by the machine, plus 3 others who were not able to vote by machine, which makes 15 registers. You now take the second person on the ones with 2 members and add those 3 to it. So that's 3 more. So I have 18 members and 4 non-members in the meeting, which comes up to the total number of people. Any questions? So that's the attendance for now. And I'm going to close it off and we're done with the poll.
Awesome. Well done, sir. I think, this is a really neat solution to our voting woes, challenges that we've had over the last few months. And well, not last few months, but ever since as part of a virtual meeting. And this is such an excellent solution, and it's relatively fast and it's accurate. So good stuff. Thanks, Will.
And if I may add just one quick feature that you may not be aware of, but it records the logins, the email addresses of the votes and how they voted. So we've got a written record of the members who, if it was an actual motion for some reason, we would know accurately who the members were who voted and what the vote was. So it's a written record, written meaning electronically. Okay.
Sounds great.
So if I may now then go into equity.
Okay, you have 1 minute because it's 7:30. Well, it's 7:35 now. We're 5 minutes over.
It's real quick. I'll do a minus 5 minutes here. But basically, equity is a couple of things are happening. We have connected with the Multnomah Village Business Association's equity team, and we're collaborating with them on equity in the village. They have a nice bunch of work going on there. We have an outreach action team, which is reaching for a more representative membership in the association. And one thing I'm very proud of, the Southwest Corridor Equity Coalition, or SWEC, had a presence in Multnomah Days this year for the first time at our encouragement. They did it. They had a great booth. They had a lot of people show up. And all this information is on the member materials for this meeting, so you can read it in writing. But the final thing I wanted to point out is when we have our equity statement of what we advocate, we promote a neighborhood which is open, fair, welcoming, and safe. And safety is a big deal for equity. The city's been doing things to do the public. I'm sure we'll hear more about the community safety process to make it more equitable. But when people feel that they are heard, that they're relatively safe, they're more willing to get along with each other and deal with differences in a positive way than when they're unsafe. So safety and equity are strongly linked. And at that point, I will pass it on to Moses and Jenny for the main presentation of the evening.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Will. Pardon the background noise. I got transferred over to me right when I was brewing a cup of coffee. Jenny, I thank you very much for being here tonight. Our guest this evening is a long time liaison, if you will, a friend of the neighborhood through your work with community safety. So your current title is, as I understand it, Community Safety Program Supervisor of the Community Safety Division of Office and Management and Finance. And I wanted to, Beth specifically really wanted me to mention that we have appreciated your work over the years when you were at Civic Life. And she also wanted me to ask you two questions. I'd like to just put them out on the table right now about what we're talking about this evening. First one would be how the mayor's consolidation has, of all the safety related city programs into one umbrella, has changed the work that you do. Okay,
great.
That'd be the first question that Beth wanted me to ask. And then the second question is to choose one of the programs that you oversee that would be the most beneficial, in your opinion, for our neighborhood, and what we need to do to get connected with it. And you can spend, as you have 30 minutes of our rapt attention here. And I'd like you, if you could answer those questions for Beth, that'd be wonderful. And please let me introduce Jenni Pullen.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Great. Thank you, Moses. I'm sorry Beth can't be here. I had a wonderful, lengthy conversation with her back in July. It was just lovely to connect with her. I remember her. I remember many of your faces from meetings throughout the years. And hello to Leah Fisher, now colleague, a Civic Life colleague, and Amanda, it's great to see you. Just a wonderful advocate of our program throughout the years. I'll always be grateful. And I'm grateful that you're all still active and engaged in your neighborhood, and you're still forging ahead in your efforts to make it a safe place to live. And we certainly have had our challenges, right, in Portland and our neighborhoods all around the city in the last few years. I have to say that in my work anyway, it feels like we're kind of coming out of a pandemic in terms of we are doing more in-person work again, which is just really great for our team. Let me give you a sense of who the team is, and I'll answer your question here about the consolidation of our programs. I would have to say that this consolidation and moving our program over to the Community Safety Division, we were moved over along with the Office of Violence Prevention and also the strengths programs, which was housed with the Portland Police Bureau. And so we are all now together as essentially the programs under this greater community safety division, a division that is growing at a rapid pace. But I can tell you that our program and the Office of Violence Prevention and the strengths programs, we provide something very unique to this greater division. We do work that no one else in the division does. They need us. And I can tell you that this move has been great. And I just said this the other day, like more than once, so I must believe that it's true, that this move has really unleashed the potential of our program. It's been really great. Unfortunately, we're a really tiny program right now. I am now supervising a team of 4. At our peak, we've had, I believe, 12 coordinators in past years. But I'm happy to say that we have an open recruitment right now. I'll be hiring 4 more coordinators in the coming months, which is much needed. It might be a big assumption to say that you noticed we weren't at Multnomah Days. Maybe you didn't notice. I hope you didn't notice, but we weren't there because we just didn't have the capacity. My team was stretched pretty thin, and they've been tasked with a lot in the last couple of months. But we would very much like to be engaged in that next summer, along with any other number of efforts that you have going on in Multnomah. Please include us in the conversation. So we are under Community Safety Division, and our name is Community Safety as well. So we will be changing our name again. And I don't know what it's going to be, but I need to figure that out here pretty soon. So that's coming, but a number of things have not changed. So we are still offering our core services. We provide trainings and education. So trainings include things like Neighbors Together, which I wouldn't even call it a replacement for Neighborhood Watch anymore. It just is what it is. It's a training on public safety resources. It brings you and your neighbors together to get to know each other. When you know your neighbors, you're more likely to look out for them, to know what's normal and not normal for activity on your street. Also, first responders in many emergencies are going to be your neighbors, right? So it's good to know who your neighbors are, any special talents or anything that they can do. If you have a nurse or in your neighborhood, or someone who knows how to turn off the gas and kind of prepare for emergencies and be helpful in responding. You want to know each other ahead of time. And that also goes for problem solving. So many times I've talked with neighbors throughout the years that have had a problem with a neighbor, and they want me to call their neighbor. Can you call this neighbor and tell them to stop leaving their trash can in such and such place? And I say, well, what did they say when you talked to them? Well, I haven't talked to them. So the point is, go meet your neighbors before there's a problem. When you know each other, it's a lot easier to solve problems. So that's the takeaway there. So Neighbors Together, it can be on a smaller scale. It's really designed for you and folks who live in the same geographic proximity of each other, or maybe it's a business district and it's businesses getting together. But our program can also facilitate larger trainings. If you come to us with an idea and say, hey, we'd like to have a greater Multnomah neighborhood safety meeting or training on a larger scale, we're more than happy to help organize that, participate in it in some way. So we can think bigger if you want, and we can think differently. If you have a specific topic in mind related to safety, public safety, we can work with you on putting something together to just talk about that particular issue. Maybe you are experiencing just a ton of car prowls or car theft, for example. You want something that really focuses on that. We can certainly do that. We also put together trainings on advocacy. So we have one coordinator who's particularly interested in that. And so he can provide you with trainings on how to go to city council and give testimony, how to sign up, how to give effective testimony, how to make your asks in an effective way, providing solutions to problems. And it's a really great kind of beginner's guide, if you will, for folks who want to go and give testimony about something that really matters to them, and they really want to be effective in doing that. So that's one of many trainings that we can offer. I can tell you what's been most requested in the last few months has been personal safety workshops. And those were actually a partnership with the Strengths program. So it's really just serendipitous that we now have the Strength programs formally working with us. In fact, the Strengths programs were under the Portland Police Bureau before, and they had technically 3 directors for 3 programs. So they had Sarah Johnson directing the Women's Strength program. And under Women's Strength, they provide free self-defense training for anyone who identifies as a woman. So you get like the physical training. It's 9 hours of training. I love it. I used to be a trainer, so it's just, I can't say enough about it. They also have a program called Girl Strength, and that is for girls who are in middle school. And it's structured a little bit differently, but they do, talk about things related to middle schoolers, bullying and peer pressure and whatnot. And they also learn physical skills training. And then the third program is called Boy Strength. And Boy Strength's a little bit different in that it's a violence prevention training without physical skills training. And they work with male mentors who work with boys. And so it's a very unique program in itself. So what has happened now that we've all come together under the Community Safe Division is that the Boy Strength program is now part of the Office of Violence Prevention, just by virtue of the type of work that they do, and that they don't teach physical skills training. It's not a physical self-defense training. And they also provide support for families as well that they work with. So it just makes sense for Boy Strength to go over with OVP. And so now with community safety, I now have Sarah Johnson with Women's Strength, and the Girl Strength program are now part of the community safety program and folks that I now supervise. We do have a vacancy for Girl Strength right now that we hope to post for soon. So it makes sense for us to be together. We are providing that training on personal safety workshops. The reason I'm mentioning it to this greater group is that it's not gender specific for the audience. So the workshops, they don't teach you the physical skills, but you do get to learn a lot about becoming comfortable with assertiveness and de-escalation training. And that's been really just, people are requesting that because they find themselves either at work or school or even in their own neighborhood. They're encountering people who are escalated for any number of reasons. It could be a mental health situation. It could be that they're altered for some reason. Maybe it's just a customer that's really ticked off at work, right, that you have to deal with. So de-escalation training can be really helpful. And our training covers that among many different other things. And so that workshop is pretty popular, and we can provide it through Zoom. It's preferred to be provided in person, however, but we're getting pretty good at the Zoom thing. So if that's preferred for your group, we can do that. So that's our trainings. Another big piece of what we do is based in crime prevention through environmental design. That's a lot to say. We call it SEPTED for short, but what we do is we come out and we provide security assessments of properties. We can come out and walk around your single family home and make recommendations to make it less vulnerable to unwanted activity, criminal activity. We work with all sorts of properties, multifamily housing, schools, businesses. We give SEPTED advice on capital improvement projects. So we kind of have our fingers in a lot of different things when it comes to CPTED, crime prevention through environmental design, how we can change the environment to impact the way that people behave in that space is really what we're looking at. But if I were to come out and walk your single family home, you know, we would just first start by looking at it from the street view and just take a look, and having fresh eyes on the space can really be enlightening because we all get so comfortable and used to our space as we come and go. And I might come along and say, wow, you know, that's a really beautiful decorative rock. Have you ever thought that someone could use that to break into your big, beautiful glass pane door? So, you know, sometimes it's really low hanging fruit, just kind of like pointing out the obvious, right? But we can also look at lighting, landscaping. We can look at access control. If you have concerns about any particular area of your home, we can look at locks on your doors and your windows and make recommendations as well. So those assessments are a big piece of our work. You know, we will provide an assessment. We provide a written report. It's not unlike if you buy a home and you have a survey done of your home, they provide, you know, photos and notes on things you want to consider. So it's going to have photos, things that we've talked about. We're always going to make recommendations, starting out with what you can do now that doesn't cost anything. So, you know, we really want to be thoughtful about cost, right? So there's a lot you can do that doesn't cost anything. And then we layer on top of that. So I'm not going to come in and say you need to put in, you know, an expensive wrought iron fence or an expensive camera system. But what we do know is that if you were to apply at least 2 changes, that can make a significant difference. So if it's a combination of maybe it's cutting back some shrubs, increasing some lighting, 2 things. That's all you need to do to make a significant change on your property. So that's something we offer for free, and that is unique to Portland. I know there's a number of practitioners out there that charge for that service, but we do it for free, and we're happy to come out and do an assessment for you if you think it would be helpful. So that's our assessments. So we have trainings, we have assessments, and then we're also really trying to support, honestly, right now, since we're in this new division and it's kind of a time of transition and change, I would say at the beginning of the summer, it was all about placemaking. Like, we want to support placemaking. But what it's turned into is us kind of getting back to our roots of situational crime prevention, and just identifying areas that need our support. Like, we've been doing a lot of work in East Portland over the summer. We have been tasked with, under the Gun Violence Emergency Declaration, to work on some micro locations. I'm a project manager for one, which is out in 82nd Avenue in Milton. So I'm, you know, I have like a team of all these folks with all these different bureaus in the city working our tails off to try to reduce gun violence. And it's, you know, it's not easy, but it's rewarding at the same time. My team is also out there. And I told them this summer, our goal coming out of kind of working from home and getting back out in the community, I said, our job this summer is to show up, right? If people ask us to be there, let's just be there. Let's show up, let's listen, let's provide them with what they need. And they've been doing that. We've been out in the community, engaging with the community, helping with block parties. We did put together an event this summer called Party on Portland, which was, you may have hosted a party through Party on Portland. It was kind of a different take on National Night Out. And I'll tell you, it was put together in haste. The program had, that program had pretty much gone away. And then some of our partners with PBOT and Parks said, you're going to do that again, right? And I said, well, I don't think so. You know, we're so tiny. I don't think we have the capacity. And then our bureau director at the time, I went to him and he said, I think you can do that. And I said, okay, let's do it. So, so we pulled it together, and I was really pleased to see that we had 75 parties registered. It was much more than I expected. In years past, we would have about 150 parties. So 75 wasn't bad for our first time out the gate. And I would very much like for us under the Community Safety Division to continue to host Party on Portland, and just lessons learned from kind of doing it in haste, and see if we can streamline that better, work better with our coalitions and whatnot as we move forward. National Night Out was a pretty well-oiled event, and so we have to get back to that. But I think that those block parties are really important to bringing positive activity back into the city, and providing folks with low barrier ways to use parks and close off their streets and have those events is really what it's about. So we'll continue to work on that and work with our partners on reducing those barriers for people. We also are looking at bringing back our prescription drug turn-in events, which have been on hold for a couple of years now. That's a program I started in 2009 for the city of Portland. And to not do it for a few years has been personally a little bit crushing, but it's just such a great service to provide for Portland. And so we're hoping to participate in the event at the end of October. I think the National Drug Turn-In event is October 29th. So stay tuned for that. And then we're also looking at organizing another gun turn-in with Ceasefire Oregon. That's in the preliminary stages of planning. So these are all programs that we did many years ago. And so, I've been around long enough to be able to say that everything that's old becomes new again. But I'm in a position now where I can help us to sort of pick and choose what seems most relevant and what's going to be the most helpful for us right now. So if I think about choosing a program that would be most beneficial for your neighborhood, I would probably say, Neighbors Together, it's a great training. I know you have a bunch of folks here that are pretty connected, but you could take advantage of Neighbors Together on your individual streets, or you could do it with your greater neighborhood association. You could have a training for, take one of these meetings and have a training take place during one of these meetings. There's really just a good section of public safety resource information that's provided, and it's very helpful to get people on the same page about how to use those resources. I did hear that you've created a resource page, and I wanted to tell you that we also have one that we created, and I don't know if a PDF can be shared in the chat, but I could email it to you, Moses. Maybe you could share it with the group.
Yeah, happy to.
So it is a important and frequently used public safety resource sheet, and it has some of the things that I heard mentioned already, but it also has some examples of when you would use some of these resources. So I'll send that along, and please feel free to borrow from it, copy and paste, if it's helpful. That's the whole reason why we've created it. So I'll send that along so you can use it. Right now in this transition, we don't have much by way of handouts or materials. In fact, we're very sad to be leaving Civic Life's communications team. Civic Life has the best communications team. And the Community Safety Division, it's like one person, and he's working really hard, but they do plan on building a team. But for right now, we're kind of back in that place of making our own materials and our own handouts. And so if there's something that you need, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we could create something hopefully that's helpful. We have access to some handouts, but we would need to update them. So But so common for folks to ask for those handouts. I know they can be really helpful, especially if you're having events, but just reach out and we'll see what we can do, see what we can pull together for you.
Well, it sounds like, there's a real strong emphasis now on this community focus, or this involvement, or getting to know your neighbors. It's versus how the old neighborhood watch kind of the patrols. Am I observing that right? Is that a little bit of a different focus or a different approach?
Yeah, a few years ago, we did away with the traditional neighborhood watch training. And what went away, well, a couple of things happened. One, we stopped selling neighborhood watch signs. I mean, that was part of it. If you had a training, I'd show up to your house and your neighbors are all sitting in your living room, and I provided training on when to call 911 and other resources. We would have a packet of materials. One would show how to things to remember about a suspect, how to report a suspicious vehicle, things to pay attention to, sort of a guide on how to create a block map. And then a handful of other things in there, things about CPTED assessments, how to make little DIY stuff around your house. And then the group might decide to buy some neighborhood watch signs. I'd have those with me, and away I'd go. And so what we've changed is this. We've really emphasized the importance of getting to know your neighbors. We have taken away the suspect reporting, the suspicious car reporting. Not to say there isn't some relevant information there, but that's not the whole point of a neighborhood watch. We're getting out of the watchiness of it, and more about knowing your neighbors, still paying attention. But more importantly, we now talk about implicit bias in our trainings. In fact, I think we talk about it in all of our trainings. And I'm sorry to say that for years we didn't. And I think that was a very big oversight for us. And so now when we have that training, we talk about biases, we all have them. We talk about how that can be dangerous in when it comes to reporting suspicious people or suspicious activity. You want to focus on the behavior, not the person. And so we cover that piece, and that always tends to be a pretty engaging conversation with folks. I know at first people were a little concerned about how that would be received. And honestly, it's been received really well. I think we're long overdue to be having those conversations. You can still create a block map if you want. If you have a Neighbors Together training and you decide as a group, hey, it would be really great to have like a little map that shows who lives where. One thing that's helpful about a block map is you can put each house number, who lives there, any information that's helpful that you want to remember. What's great about it though is when you're in a time of emergency and you're calling 911, I don't know if anyone here has ever called 911 before, but you can be in a heightened state, right? Your heart's beating fast, something is happening that's really exciting in terms of it's an emergency, who knows what's happening. Just on Saturday morning, my neighbor drove into my other neighbor's yard and ran into her cars. She was a nurse coming home from swing shift and she fell asleep and she drove into the neighbor's cars. I mean, it was like, what? So you're calling to get help and they're going to ask you for information, like where's the emergency taking place? And I don't know if you know your neighbor's addresses by heart, or if you would know them under an emergency situation, but it's helpful to have that map to look at, to guide you, to say, she lives at this address, or my neighbor's address is this, this is their name. And you have that information right there when you need it most. Probably most of the time you'll think, you've got this map there on your fridge or whatever, and it gets overlooked most of the time, but it's there for you when you need it. So there's certainly value in some of those tools that come with the traditional neighborhood watch training, but there's no stopping you from using those if you feel like that would be helpful for your group. We're just not making that the priority of this training. It's to help facilitate you getting to know your neighbors, because we're all trained facilitators and educators. And sometimes it's nice to bring someone in to do that and get you and your neighbors talking with each other. And we're also going to bring you the most current public safety resources and information and updates on that and how to use it. So, but yeah, if you and your neighbors want to go out and walk the neighborhood, we used to do these patrol trainings on how to do like a foot patrol, and we don't do that anymore. But it doesn't mean that you can't do it. If you want to, go out and walk the neighborhood with your neighbor, just do it in a safe way. We just say if you see something suspicious or a crime that's happening, call and report it from a safe distance, stay safe, and go out with a buddy and try to limit distractions. If taking kids or walking dogs, it's up to you, but just be safe while you're out there. But we used to organize foot patrols. It was very formal, and you'd call your precinct and let them know you're out patrolling, and in that program, we don't do that anymore.
Pardon me. Pardon me. It reminds me of the structure of the old neighborhood emergency teams, the NET teams. As far as knowing your neighbors, knowing what assets, what they bring to the table, and how they can all contribute to the common problem or the common situation. So that's very good. I know that our safety committee is much more active right now than it's been. So I'm sure that between Beth and Patrick, one of them will be in touch with you to interface and to take advantage of some of these programs.
Yeah, and Patrick, you have a coordinator assigned to your area. Her name is Sarah Berkemeyer, and she I can share her email. I don't know if the chat is enabled or not, but is it okay?
You're welcome to share something
too.
Yeah, so Sarah would be a great contact. It might be, I'm a big fan of just talking to people over the phone. It might be nice to just have a phone call with her and talk about some of your goals for your safety committee and see if there are some ways that she can support you. We aren't traffic specialists, like this in terms of traffic safety. We would likely, if you needed the help find someone with PBOT to help you, but in other ways we could certainly support you. So I'm going to put Sarah's email in the chat, and
thank you. I'll look for that.
Yeah.
By the way, just for information, we have the chat somewhat restricted where people can only communicate with hosts and co-hosts. And that's to have large meetings, but potentially contentious stuff. We said, hey, let's control it. But we'll forward that out to the general membership when you get it, general.
Great. Well, then maybe what I'll do, Moses, is just follow up with an email about the things I covered tonight. I'll include the resource sheet. I'll include Sarah's contact information, and then you can share that with the group as you see fit.
Wonderful. Patrick, I'm about to email. I'll at least be able to send you her email here. Oops, wait a second. Oh, did it work? Boom. Okay, good.
I see it. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Will, do you have your hand up? Did I see?
Yes, I do have my hand up. I have a couple of questions if I could.
Okay, we've got 6 minutes.
Okay, they'll be quick. I'll ask them in 5, and then she has a minute to respond. It's basically 2 related questions. The first is, I've been intrigued by the integrating these, and as I see it, empowering, if you will, the neighbors to take more control of their own safety in a reasonable way. You know, if it's life-threatening, you call 911, but to say, I don't have to call the cops for everything that goes along. I don't have to worry and suspicion with my people, but I'm actually part of a team that's my local neighbors that is dealing with safety in a very direct way. Which, am I getting that correct? Is that a fair statement of the philosophy?
I think that sounds great.
Okay. A related subset in schools and other places, there's a concept called restorative justice, which you probably have heard of, where rather than send a kid to suspension or expulsion, they say, look, you did something that hurt the body politic of school. Let's help you restore the effect of your damage. Is that part of your program? Do you use restorative justice methods?
That's not part of our program. I am familiar with restorative justice work, but no, it's not.
Okay. And the net teams, are they part of you or not?
They're not. Neighborhood emergency teams are part of the PBIM, Portland Bureau of Emergency Management. And I believe they have a net volunteer organizer on staff with PBIM. So if you're interested in being connected further with the net program, I could certainly make that connection for you. I imagine there's some net volunteers in this meeting. I know in Southwest we have quite a few net folks.
Okay. Thanks.
I'd love to one of these days get them re-involved in the neighborhood association. I know that back when I was chair previously, they were pretty active. Let's see, is there any other, do I see another hand up? Oh, I see Patrick's hand up and I see Charmaine's hand up. Patrick, did you have a question?
Yeah, thanks, Jenny, for a great presentation. And wow, who knew about all these resources? It's really amazing. A comment and then a question. First comment is with property crime, a lot of things happen between dusk and dawn when most people are in their homes and don't have the eyes and ears in the community. So I think I'm hearing that a Neighbors Together program could, to some degree, address that. So that's my first question. The second question is, Multnomah is a very large neighborhood and somewhat heterogeneous. And, when people get together around one block or 2 blocks, then we could probably have 50 of these going on at one time with very local focus. So do you have any comment about that, about trying to get a little bit more global engagement in something like that versus just a couple of blocks at a time? Because scaling it up to the whole neighborhood.
Sure. I mean, I wish, well, I mean, there's so much value in both, right? Like meeting with neighbors on one street, on one block. It's a very cool thing to experience. So something that Sarah and I started to experiment with in the last year was providing these security assessments on a block level. So what we would do is on one block from one street to the next, all the homes in between, so maybe say 12 homes just participated, we would go out and meet with that group of neighbors, and we would walk from house to house and provide an assessment just from the street view and make recommendations. So we would consider lighting, landscaping, just what's going on with each home individually, and make recommendations to reduce those vulnerabilities. What we would learn is, what are the issues they're having, strangers on the porch or package theft, whatever. And what happened was we thought that these neighbors would walk from house to house to learn from each other's assessments, which they did. We spent about 10 minutes on each house. But what really happened was that community building started to happen. All these people are standing in the street and they're all talking with each other, or they stop following us because they're chatting it up with each other, meeting each other. And the result was so much more than what we had planned for. So I really like that idea of providing those assessments on a block level and incorporating a little bit of that public safety awareness and community engagement in there together. So that could be something we could start to do, but I just have to say with the caveat that our team is very small right now. So to what degree, I don't know. I would say start on the where we can reach the most people and just promote neighbors together. Maybe it could be a little bit of a train the trainer type of a training. You know, you could work with Sarah and talk about how could we expand this, you know, on another level. Maybe people could then go back and hold their own training with their neighbors, something like that. So we could get creative and come up with something.
That's very good. All right, I have another guest coming up in old business. So Charmaine and Amanda, I know you both have questions, but you first, Charmaine.
Okay, I'll be quick. I was wondering what resources are available to educate us about drug risks, like identifying counterfeit opioids, what to do if we suspect somebody is having an overdose, how to properly secure medications in the home, how to properly dispose of them as well. I'm really excited to hear that prescription drop-off is starting back up again. I recently learned that hazardous waste at Metro will take it as well.
Oh.
Can you say that again? Metro will take?
Metro will take prescriptions as well. Metro's hazardous waste, where you take paint and the automotive fluids, and they'll take unused fireworks as well.
That's great. Thank you. I don't know. I'll have to do some research for you on getting education around those items. So let me see what I can find, and I'll follow up with Moses.
What I'll do is, just so that you two can connect, I'll send her your email address.
Great.
That's
Thank you.
Okay, good deal. All right, Amanda, you're last.
Just briefly, Jenny, in front of everybody, you have always been a star in this program. I'm so happy. You mentioned 2009. That's when I first got on the council. So thank you for all your leadership over the years. I'm very happy that you're the supervisor. I'm absolutely delighted that the strengths programs moved with you. So other than losing the communications team, I think this is a really positive change. And I loved all the things that you had to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's been truly a joy. I've been here 15 years, and that's because I love this work. And in any job, you know, you go through moments of times where you live to work, and there's times when you work to live. And I can honestly say I'm back in this flow of, I just love this work. I love it. And I believe that Portland can thrive and people can feel safe and enjoy this beautiful city that we live in. So keep up the great work, Multnomah neighborhood. You're doing great. And please call on us to support you. We're here for you.
Right on. I appreciate that. And, and I appreciate the feeling of where the city is going and how it's responding. I feel the pandemic, I feel like we've gotten ourselves into a negative Nelly mode mindset, for the lack of a more articulate way of putting it. So I appreciate that. Thanks, Jenny. And thank you for your time tonight.
It's my pleasure. Now, do you want me to stay on, or shall I go?
Oh, you're always welcome to stay on, but you don't have to.
Okay. I might have a kid who's waiting to read Harry Potter with me, so I might I might go.
I can understand if that is a priority. I got you.
All right, everyone. Have a great night. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jenny.
Take care.
Okay, right on. Thank you. That was good stuff. I want to move now to the SRV, old business, into the Safe Rest Village. The negotiation team for the Good Neighbor Agreement between the Neighborhood Association and others, has a report, and I'd like to introduce Tony Wilson, who is works over at is the vice principal of the West Hills Christian School in our neighborhood, to share with us where we're at.
Okay, I'm actually vice chair of the board. I don't work there, but sometimes I sure feel like I do. By the way, in terms of safety, you know, we just had a healthy 7th grader collapse on our track playing basketball out there on Thursday. No heartbeat, not breathing. And we've got safety protocols in now, a whole host of them, for active shooter and all that stuff. They have an app where they can just press something and medical emergency, and the nurse comes out with the, you know, the portable AED, the defibrillator, and used it. She had ICU experience. I kind of wonder sometimes what any one of us would do. Would I be nervous to use it? Or anyway, so she used it and got his heart going again. And they dialed 911, and actually some firemen were going right by there. So in very short order, they got him into an ambulance, and on the way to the hospital, he flatlined again. And but they got him going again, and then finally in ICU he was stabilized, and now he's talking, but he's got some cognitive problems. We hope are temporary, but can't say enough about those portable defibrillators. I mean, I call them kachunkas because I can never say the word, but you know, they sit there for a long time, but then boy, do you appreciate them when you need them. Okay, so with the SRV thing, you know, it was way back on 5/12 that we sent the the working group draft off to Dan Ryan and Jake Dornblazer. And while 4 months is a long time, you know, it is summer with vacations, and you know, I've had 2 different surgical procedures, and I was summer camp counselor. I mean, stuff happens during summer, but we've not been idle nor lazy about it. I'm very motivated to get this done. Jake's review of our GNA was put on hold for, I don't know, probably about 45 days as Dan Ryan's chief of staff. Kelly Torres stepped in to address what we call the buffer zone, which is really just a city commitment to move along any unsanctioned camping that might be in the area. And so she also was going to address the advisory group and screening, the latter of which the city supports, but they need to convince the county, because the county's the one with all the money, and they contract with the SRV operator, All Good Northwest. And in the end, Dan Ryan and his chief of staff were unable to convince the county chair and her appointed director of the Joint Office of Homelessness Services, JOHS. They are both together. Well, the director is the appointee of the county chair. And so they're both adamant about screening, but you know, that's only till the November election when we get a new county chair. And so JOHS is a bureau underneath the chair. And I've spoken directly with candidate county commissioner, current county commissioner Sharon Myron, and the downtown schools with whom I'm in regular conference have spoken with Commissioner Jessica Vega Peterson. So they're both candidates for chair in November, and they are both supportive of screening. Meanwhile, Jake and I have gone back and forth working on the GNA, many long hours in conference, and we're close now to kind of in the short strokes on this GNA, and we decided to put the screening language into an exhibit, and that exhibit is structured as an agreement right now between the county or JOHS and West Hills Christian School. That could be, you know, M&A could be in there too, but it's only valid if those parties have signed it. So that way we can get, there's 8 parties to this agreement, by the way. That way we can get all 8 parties to sign the agreement, even if they don't presently agree to screening. We can change that later with just a stroke of a pen by the 2 or 3 parties that are on that exhibit, and nobody else has to do anything. I find Dan Ryan, his chief of staff, Kelly Torres, and Jake Dornblazer to all be very supportive. The county chair and the director of JOHS that are holdouts here. As to the buffer zone, we've changed that from 1,000 feet to specific portions of specific streets, which makes sense. Because they're not going to agree to cover private property and all that. So we're hopeful of getting coverage. Actually, let me share. And this is just what we're hopeful of. So let me show you. Everybody see that okay? Yeah. Okay. We're hopeful that they're going to agree to cover 25th Avenue between, it's unimproved, right, between Multnomah and Troy. Multnomah from the front of the Sears property all the way up to Capitol Hill at Safeway there, and then Capitol Hill Road down to front of our school to the end of it. Probably not all the way to Troy. But this is sort of a quilt work of different mayoral executive it's not order or something else, but the safe routes to schools program. It includes the city administrative rule that says 75 feet from an SRV. It includes up here, up by Safeway where there's a bus stop. So that's PBOT. PBOT has their own ordinances, and so this is the credit. Oh, and then Moss Street over there too, out behind the Sears property would be covered. But it's kind of a quilt work that Jake has gone to bat for, and he deserves credit for that. He's just been a joy to work with. I've just got to say, I know a lot of people thought ill of him, but he's a guy I'd go have a beer with. I just have really, when I've negotiated contracts with people, he would be some of the best I've ever worked with.
That's high praise from you, Tony. I appreciate that. And I just want to point out one, and I think that's appropriate for me to point this out. Tony, tell me if I'm wrong. And that's where the borderline is there covering the grounds.
Oh yeah.
On that other side.
Yeah. You want me to bring that back up again?
If you don't mind.
Yeah.
Just want to point it out to folk.
Yeah. So he's talking about this area here. Oh, sorry, this area here. So it's this little sliver, little tiny skinny little building called occupied by Ground Spring. Some kind of wellness. I don't know what it is really, but okay, you wanted to say?
Oh, I just wanted to. Part of the discussions is making sure that section is also included in that buffer zone. Yes, and I know that there are certain challenges with it, with the freeway being right there and PBOT jurisdiction and such like that.
Yeah. So what I try to get him to do, I mean, look at that. None of this is really SRV related, right? It's really just. I mean, we're getting a lot of extras here that we would not have otherwise had. Because there's, and so far, the Safe Rest Village has just been unnoticeable. I mean, we haven't, there hasn't been any attractants to speak of. Not 0%, but what I really kind of had hoped that they would do, because, well, I had hoped that they would cover so back behind Ground Spring, underneath the overpasses there. Because I know there's trails up there, and on the Solve cleanup day, I spent most of my time around this Safeway here, and there were needles, there's needles over on the Capitol hillside. And there was a needle right on the back doorstep of this ground spring place. So I went and visited them and said, okay, look, I know you guys got a lot of hot action right behind you, and it's resulting in needles on your premises. And they said, yeah, hey, here's the email address of our owner, and it's an issue for him, but I've emailed him twice with no response. I kind of hoped he'd be kind of on the lookout, and maybe he could participate in this, but he has not. And Jake said, look, I can't agree to cover that. I just can't add that. It's not related. And to the extent that I've got to put resources onto something that's not related, I water down, I dilute rather the coverage that I'm able to provide for other areas. So
I appreciate you giving us a little bit of background on that. I wanted to point it out because it is such a challenge area, but it's certainly been on our radar, and it's definitely on the radar of the other of the city. So
yeah, and so really, so we're almost done. Well, I can't say that. We got to get 5 other parties to input, but Jake, as he was editing this thing, he did it with a mind of what the various bureaus might accept or reject. So I'm hoping that it won't be as bad as it could be, but we need to finalize the buffer coverage and add that as an exhibit, and then then we're done. So that's where we're at. I thought I saw a hand earlier.
yeah, Tony, thank you very much for the update. Corinne, did you have a question? Did you want to say something?
I just wanted to talk about the underpass under Barber and see if there was any way to squeeze that in, but you guys talked about it.
I know it's been.
Thank you.
I'm with you on that being a target area.
Yeah. Any support we can get on that would be help us move the needle on it. That's a tough spot. And Tony, I appreciate all your work with Dan Ryan and Jake and their team on the benefit of our community. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Right on. Hey, Tony, thank you again. Let's go ahead to the next issue.
May I have just one brief comment on that underpass before I forget it? We've had very few complaints from people who are usually pretty actively complaining, but they've all related to that area around the underpass and Barber and so forth. It's a hot spot.
Yep.
As is 26. 26 is the real problem.
And 26 is that one over there by the 7-Eleven?
Yeah, this big old interchange, right? So all that property that's just, they're getting more and more unsanctioned camping there. And that's what's bleeding into the neighborhood. It's not the SRV or anything related to it.
Wow. Right on. Well, I'm sure that we'll be talking about these issues.
Moses, Patrick has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Patrick, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the good work. I think, one response to the non-included areas is just keep reporting, report. And, they have an enormous list of unsanctioned camps, and they say they're getting to them. But I think separate from the Good Neighbor Agreement, I think we still owe ourselves and the city as citizens to report unsanctioned camping wherever we see it.
Hey, Patrick, when you say report it, do you mean using like the PDX reporter tool to report unsanctioned camping, or where are you reporting that stuff?
You can use PDX reporter. I'm getting my own list here, so excuse me. You can use PDX reporter. You can dial 311, which is kind of a one-stop city contact number. And I think there's also an email you can use. But whatever the means is, I think the city's preferred method is PDX reporter.
Yeah.
And I report a lot, and sometimes I see them go away, and I'm not sure if it was me or 100 people reporting it, but I think every report counts. And, if we want the city to know what people are seeing and thinking and concerned about, we need to report in some manner. You can even call the mayor's office and there's a recorded line or even a person sometimes that takes down your complaint. So whatever means you want to use, please report.
Amen. Jill?
Hi.
Jill?
Tony, could you pop the map back up really quickly and arrow point out where the camp on the 26th that you're referring to?
Yeah, no, I don't have that. I blew this up as much as I could. So it's not on here. It's south of this.
It's at the intersection of what would that be? The underpass. You're talking about the camps right there by the underpass of Barber with Les Schwab up the street. Just
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I got it. That's not where the fire was this evening on my way home.
Was the fire in our directly in our neighborhood by chance, Jill?
Yes. Closer to the one where Barbara is going over on the way to I-5 by Safeway. It was up right off of Multnomah Boulevard below Safeway.
Oh,
I'll learn about that one tomorrow. Well, I'll have to do some homework on that one. That's scary. I might drive by there tonight. Okay, well, folks, let's move on here. That's one topic of old business. The next is the ice cream social. Julie and Corinne, I'll start with Julie, and if Corinne wants to also put in Julie, how that ice cream social was cool. Good job.
Oh yeah, no, this is all Corinne. She takes it. I'm just a player in her party.
Okay, Corinne, you're up. Tell us how that went.
Thanks, you guys. No, it was not all me. Well, I think I love our community, and I'm really glad that a lot of people stepped up to help pull this off and bring a little free ice cream and a little bit of our neighbors together to get to know each other and chat in the park. And I think it was a really good first annual event that we hope to repeat next year with some additions and some improvements based on what we learned this year. But Village Ice Cream offered to show up and hand out free ice cream, and a lot of people came out. We handed out street signs to slow the flock down. We talked to neighbors. We, like Moses said, we actually raised a little bit of money, which is the first time since I've been involved in the M&A have we actually brought any money in, which was pretty cool. And it was a really good vibe all around from what I could tell. And I really look forward to doing it again with our community next year, and hope more people will step up to help and we can make it a bigger event that will reach more people within our community.
You know what's really cool about it too, Corinne, is that Jenny talked about it tonight about the Party On program, her desire to keep that rocking annually. And we were one of the benefactors of that, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
We get some support from that. We didn't get we didn't get the fire truck, but we did
No, and that was one thing that I would give feedback to Jenny, and I think I filled out a survey after the fact, is that when we filled out the application to host the party for our community, they gave you the option to invite multiple people from city bureaus, and nobody showed for us, and it felt a little bit defeating, I would suppose. That and I think, to Jenny's point, that they had a lot more parties than they were expecting and were spread very thin. And so I get it, but I really hope that the city could show up for us next time, and we can get some people out so that our community members can talk to people that represent them in the city face to face, and get a little bit more of that representation would be my biggest call out for next year.
I agree with you on that one. I mean, it certainly served the purpose of kind of rebooting what we want to do as a neighborhood association. I mean, it's more of this focus on community building that I like to think that we're having.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So good stuff. Thank you for that, Corinne. And and a special shout out to Village Ice Cream. I went in there the other day and following up with him, and he is just a nice man, entrepreneur, just wants to do I mean, he does fundraisers for schools, that sort of thing, discounted ice cream, however he does it, but he's just trying to get involved in the community. And so it was good to finally network with him.
Yeah, and it furthers our relationship with the business association, which is something I've been focusing on for the last few months, is strengthening that relationship and bringing us together to do more for our community here.
Well, Corinne, that's just a perfect dovetail for the next item, and that's Multnomah Days. I know that we did a couple things, or at least we participated. And then also I want to talk about what we're kind of our audacious plan for next year.
Yeah. For this year for Multnomah Days, I sat with the planning committee with the business association, and the biggest thing that they needed help with was volunteers. And I think that's an area that we could help with next year, is helping bring people to. They needed block monitors to make sure, for health and safety, to make sure that people had resources if somebody got too hot or needed first aid or anything like that, and then people to set up and take down. And the whole thing is run by the business association, which is a small organization, and they put on this wonderful street event that people have missed over the last couple of years. And I think I know where Moses is going with this. When I followed up with Peter, the president of the business association, he talked about a lot of people were grateful for the event, but they definitely missed the parade. And the business association needs somebody to step up and do the parade next year. And we think the Multnomah Neighborhood Association might be the right organization to do it. So just planting that little seed.
I want to.
If you had something else you want to say, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'll say this. I want to throw some water on that seed and really encourage that we take on this project. I'm going to go ahead and close old business and go into new business here and talk specifically about that. We have an opportunity to be able to sponsor and manage the parade. And the parade was, if you've been in the village for any length of time, you know how big that parade is, how popular that parade is, and how much fun it is. I mean, I remember taking my 6-year-old there, and she's 18 now. And so I want the MNA to sponsor that and to put on that to put that together next year. And so I don't, it's probably a little too soon to do anything formal like a subcommittee or anything like that, but I just would like to make sure that we have that there and get some thoughts. Is this too much for us? Do we have enough bandwidth to do this?
We have enough if we have enough volunteers, I think. And I don't think it's too early to start talking about it, because we would have to get some things in motion and have some people commit, after the holidays in the early spring, to start thinking about it and getting that plan in motion. So yeah, I don't think it's too early. I think we talk about it and make sure it's on our agenda come after the holidays, and we see if we can get a committee big enough to do it. And I think we, as the MNA, we do our best to take it on and support our business district and the business association and try to do this for them and for our community.
Right on.
If I may, on that, building bandwidth is always an important thing. One of the things that happens is we start to think that the board is everybody, and we don't reach out beyond it. This is a big enough project to have life on its own. So I think that's very likely that if word gets out to our general 1,000-person mailing plus the business association, we will get people to say, yeah, I can take that on. I don't want to be on the board, but I sure can work on the parade. So I think we can build bandwidth.
Yeah, good call, Will. I agree. Thank you for that.
Well, yeah, Corinne, I will certainly follow up with you on this, and I will certainly make sure to inform the neighborhood in upcoming communications of what we're wanting to do here. Jill, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm happy to be a reference resource. I'm a little busy on that day. I have Sip Divine, so I'm usually hopping in the village. There is a dedicated email address for the parade, and that can be turned over to you. There are things that need to happen if you want to say requisition the Rose Festival princesses, the court. That usually needs to be done around February. We often start talking as a business association about Multnomah Days in January, but there's also in recent years had 2 announcers on rooftops, and the sound systems get donated and all that fun stuff. And mostly the volunteers need to be beaters, as it were. You know, here comes the parade, and make sure that the people are back far enough, and that if people are insisting on throwing candy, that they throw it out of the line of fire so little kids are safe if they're gonna scoop it up out of the street, that kind of thing. But I'm happy to be a resource for you.
That is awesome, Jill. Thank you. I remember Luke was Huffstutter did it for me for a few years too. The Anastasia owner.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm confident that if he is able to, he would be willing to do it again. And yeah, I think he did a great job.
Agreed. I remember he was usually Johnny on the spot and getting the emails out and getting the thing organized. And you know, there's different variations of it as far as assigning everybody a number, every group, every entry a number, and then having a correlating bio or just, you know, a description of them. But then I remember we did one a couple of years ago where we had nothing, just show up and just and I thought that was kind of cool too. You know, so things that we need to talk about. Jill, I'll be in touch. We'll be in touch.
Happy to help. It's a wholesome thing, and it's a really good parade. I'm not even that big of a parade person, but this is a really, really good parade, and there aren't many left. So please, please, I beg you, take it over. I support this.
Thanks, Jill.
Yeah, I'm so appreciate that. And I'm glad my thinking here is on track with as far as taking this on. I've got to between all of us, we can do it. I feel good about that. Okay, so to be continued in our discussions over the next little while. The other thing in new business is the upcoming officer elections. In October, because of our bylaws, we are mandated to, officers are 1-year terms. Every October, we have to conduct an election for new officers. It is going to, there are some logistics. Fortunately, we have Will Fuller to help us navigate those logistics when it comes to the voting and things of that nature. Does anybody have any thoughts on it? Will, I know that you might have a thought that you might want to share on this. We're going to have to start promoting this, and as soon as candidates start to come in, if there are any candidates, we do have 4. The current board is running for re-election, so at least we have candidates for each of the positions. Yes. What are your thoughts, Will?
Well, it's pretty simple. Get the word out that this is what situation. We've got these people running, and it's an open nominations process.
Sure.
And we'll do the specifics of how a person is nominated. But as in many volunteer organizations, they're lucky to get somebody to volunteer. They don't have competition. But that's not mean you can't assume that this is an open society. And also, it's important to people in the neighborhood, many of them, that this is a member-led organization, not a board-led organization, which means the common man, the common woman, the common whatever is the group of people that has the say, and they need to be treated with respect and openness that this is available. So get the word out right away. This is what the situation is and the process for voting, and you're okay.
Right. You know, and I remember when we did these elections back when I was chair previous in the 2010, you know, in the early 2010s. And Will is correct. You know, it really took, I ran unopposed for 3 years, you know, because no one else wanted to be chair. And then, what was it? The Freeman Water Tower was stimulated interest in the residential infill, the problems with, you know, it motivated a few people, and then Carol McCarthy, and it motivated Carol McCarthy to get involved. And so I stepped down I decided not to run again and defer to her, because she was new, fresh, and I want to be able to do that again too. I don't want to be chair ad infinitum. I'd like to train, nurture my replacement.
The current board is all in their first year, so it's not like there's been a dynasty set up.
Oh, I can imagine a dynasty with me, Julie Lee, Beth, and Tad. Oh my goodness sakes. I'm just teasing. I won't do that to you. I'm teasing you, Julie. I'm saying that we're going to be stuck as board members for the next 5 years. All right, sounds good. So that's coming up. We're going to have to get ready for that. I'll work with Will and the rest of the leadership to make sure that the next general meeting is taken care of. It takes that election as part of the agenda, and it is run smoothly. That's about it for new business, unless anybody else has anything that they knew that we need to talk about. Otherwise, I want to talk real quick about our next meeting. The next meeting is pretty basic. We've got the officer elections coming up, but we also have another speaker from PBOT, and it's relating to the transportation issues, and specifically the Fixing Our Streets project that's going to be coming up along Multnomah Boulevard. And this also kind of ties into Stefan's interests. And Corinne, do you have any thoughts on that? Do you want to say anything about what she's going to be talking about?
Yeah, I can. The Fixing Our Street projects is what Moses was saying. It's along Multnomah Boulevard between 40th and, or excuse me, 35th and 40th, and then also connects to where the viaduct dips down onto Capitol Highway. They're in front of the what is that auto shop?
Oh, Handy Andy's.
That's down there. Is that, I don't know if that's Handy Andy's or not, but it's that along that stretch of Multnomah. And I don't know if it's supposed to be, I think it's supposed to be a sidewalk between 35th and the Capitol Highway, or 37th. And then I think it's just supposed to be like the white floppy cones in a painted lane between 35th and 40th. Is I think what they have in plan. So they're going to share their plan, and we can provide feedback, and they'll share their timeline and whatnot. So that's about all I have on it. There is some concern to the redundancy between like Multnomah and say Canby Street that people used to walk a lot, or the sidewalks along Troy. And that stretch of Multnomah, even if it did have some safety improvements, how much would people actually walk it? And so we're kind of talking through the validity of the project. Stefan and I have been discussing that a little bit with PBOT. So that's just kind of where my thoughts land on it. But I don't know if we're in a position to make any concrete changes to the plan. So I don't know the history of the plan. I'm not sure. It must have come along with SWIM or Southwest in Motion a few years back, is my guess. But
I wouldn't be
yeah, go ahead.
surprised. I finally had an opportunity, Corinne, to look at the Southwestern Motion projects. And I see it here. Matter of fact, I'm looking at it right now. And the project that Stefan was talking about is in here. The project that you're talking, the along Multnomah, it's in here. So
yeah. And I don't know where it came from. It must have been, Southwest in Motion was a collaboration between PBOT and people in the community. So it must have been an identified need at the time by people in the community. So I don't want to discount that at all. But I think it's worth for just opening discussion a little bit about it again, and we'll have an opportunity to ask questions when PBOT comes to the meeting in October.
Right on. That's good. And we can combine this with what Stefan was talking about us polling the membership about potential locations. like Falcon, you know, and being able to advocate within the city. Yeah. So the challenge is whether or not we can have an impact or sway
Yeah.
them. Right.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
also right. But I'm appreciative that you reached out to them and on this, and they'll be joining us as our guest speaker tomorrow or next month, pardon me. So thank you, Corinne. If there's any other things that we need to talk about, I would love to get a motion to adjourn the meeting from anybody who wants to.
So moved.
No need for a second. All in favor? Let's go. You get one last chance to say hello.
Good meeting, 5 minutes early.
I like those. Thank you, folks. I appreciate your being here very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Moses.
Okay,
Thanks
you guys
so much. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
save your chat, Will. Save your chat. I just saved mine. Okay,
Chats are being saved automatically, but it's a good idea to
Okay.
make sure.
very good. Amanda, thank you.